so excited to do this new launch and share the 2 new clear stamp sets that are coming to my Etsy shop, and I think that they should be available on my Etsy Alyona Creates as this video comes live. So 2 sets. One is going to be a new version of a FOTD, which, if you remember, this was my let me just grab it for you. So this was the original face, and now I have created a different face shape. So it's a round face shape, and also we have a body now. So there is a body that is facing, a body that is kind of turned to the left, a body that is turned to the right, and also loads of bits and pieces, which are the arms and the legs divided in 2, so the upper and the lower part, so that you can create a slight variety to the shape of the body. So slightly fuller versus slightly thinner, longer, shorter, so that you can kind of have a variety in body shapes. And this is basically the look of the girls that you can stamp out. So it's called Moving Doll, and you can create different poses, different postures, and they can look like they're dancing, moving, and, you know, just having fun. You can also dress them. You can just play on the body kind of posture and pose without thinking about painting or drawing an outfit for them. So they could be like, you know, a Marilyn Monroe type of a look. And yeah, so the hair you would have to draw your own. It doesn't come with a hair, but if you had the previous stamp set, the bun could be used for this face, or otherwise you could also use this face instead of this face. As you can see, the proportions are heavily exaggerated because this is just a illustration. And so you could swap it for this face if you had this stamp set, and also you could use all of these facial features in this face shape as well. As you can see, it's wider, so everything will fit nicely. And so what I've done for this moving doll set is mainly concentrated on the movement of the body and the posture and the pose, but you do get a bit of a face with it as well. So you just get one set of lips and one set of eyes. This time you will notice that I have divided the eyes, so they don't come in a strip, but they are divided, and this is so that you can place them further away if you wanted to, or closer together. You could tilt them up and down to create a sad look or a more cat eye type of a look. And I played around just a little bit in these pictures here and the illustrations, and hopefully I can get it to focus. So there we go. You can hopefully see that the expression of the face changes somewhat depending on how you place the eyes. Also, if you wanted to create a turned head, the eyes can be shifted slightly more to one side or another side to create this kind of like a turned face look, as opposed to the one that is kind of facing straight ahead. Here you can see the same thing. I have turned the face to the right and here to the left. In terms of the lips, you have a little bit of variety there. You can draw or paint an open mouth or a closed mouth with these lips, just creating a little gap here. So that is basically the set. I will go ahead and show you all the examples that I have to to show you here in a minute, but now I wanted to share the second stamp set, and this one is Color Theory. So this is going to be for watercolor enthusiasts. It can be also used for other mediums as well. The whole point is to have an illustrated way of creating swatches and color mixes, and it also helps to keep things looking neat in your sketchbooks. Now, what you could do is you could simply use a black ink and stamp it as it is. It is totally up to you. It is nice and quick, and you basically get your job done very quickly and just do the regular stamping. However, if you want things to look more illustrated, which is what I prefer in stamps, I like to use stamps as kind of like a helping guideline, just so that I get it all stamped out. It takes away sometimes a stressful drawing session. So I'm not a good drawer by nature, so there are days where I can draw better than other days, but it's not like I can pick up a pencil and just draw. Color and sort of that is more of my natural kind of instinctual thing that I can do easily. Drawing, I find that I help myself greatly by kind of drawing out something once and then using it again and again in sort of creating illustrative work. So coming back to Color Theory, here, well actually, yeah, so the back of it, I have shown a few examples. So here is the color wheel. Here is a large swatch that you can use for color blending. Again, I will show you all the examples in there. So this is the large one. Now you could use it as a singular piece, or you could indeed stamp as many of them as you want and create a large kind of version of this piece here. So this is a 5-section, nice and easy color blending. So I use it to kind of go more into depth into a color that I have mixed together using 2 colors, and then I kind of add one of the color, a little bit extra of the color, and then just go further down towards this color, and then I can see the gradient. Now if you wanted to take this further, you could stamp another one here and have 10. So that means your gradient is going to be very, very subtle, and you're going to have more colors in between, and that could be very interesting to kind of go in depth with a color that you really enjoy. So the next one would be, let's look at these little ones. So this is a singular pen. I just stamped out an example of 6 to create a smaller version of this 6 mini palette or limited color palette. So the mini one is here, like it's super, super tiny. And then here, this is supposed to represent a half pen. And you can, again, stamp as many as you want. You could stamp a whole palette. So if you have, I don't know, 24, 36 colors, you could just stamp them all and create a swatch card to go into your palette, and it would look very neat, very clean, very organized. And then here I have got 2 half pens but merged together, so that if you have loads of them to stamp, you could just stamp as many as you can using these half pens. And then if you have an uneven number of colors, for example, you could add an extra one to those if you wanted to. Usually it's a even number in the traditional watercolor palettes or sets. So then we have a full pan here, which basically these are sized to a realistic sizing so that you could use them like half pans or full pans come. And here I have done another 6 color version here for you to see. Again, you can stamp as many as you want. So I personally use this for the Romances Mal and for the White Nights by Nevskaya Palitra watercolors, because that's the only, I believe that's the only colors I have in full pans. So I can do that, and then I use my Schminke, which I only own in half pans or tubes, but I can use that for any other half pan that I have. And that is basically what you get here. You could also use this mini stamp for creating a colored pencil palette, because it's nice and small. If you're working in a smaller journal like here, you could just stamp them out and have also a neat way of keeping like a color reference there. So that is it for the two, and now I'm going to go ahead and show you some examples. So firstly, before I forget, I'm going to show you these two, which basically this is what I've done. This is the actual size of them, and those are the girls that I use for designing the back of the images. They have been just shrunk, but this is the original size that you will stamp with this stamp set. And you can see it's a not tiny, not too small, not too big. These would work really well in A5 journals. This is a B6, and I guess A5 would be this way, like that. So it's, I think it's similar lengthwise, just a bit narrow widthwise. And yeah, so if you love working in A5 journals, that would be sort of your kind of comfort zone. They would fit in really nicely. You have enough space to create hair elements, but also you can elongate the body, so it doesn't have to be that short. If you wanted to make it longer, you could totally do it. So here, because they're bigger images, you can see the eyes a bit better. And let me just see if I can point with something. So here we have got eyes that are closer together and then more to the side to create like a more of a turned face. And also the body, I used turned shapes here to create the bodies. And you can see one has more, slightly more kind of volume, and then the other one is slightly thinner. And you can also make this even wider if you wanted to. So you could create a bigger bum, you could create a bigger thigh if you wanted to do that. Just by using the guidelines of the stamped image, you can then exaggerate the lines slightly. If you're going to be obviously using watercolor and things like that, using a light ink like Distress ink, Tattered Rose, this one is still my favorite. I tried different stamping inks, and I have to say, for this type of work, I'm still going back to that ink all the time, because the lines are very lightly visible, and I don't mind if something is still out here, and I can just either ignore the line and create my own, or I can just draw over it, and you know, it doesn't disrupt. So it's not a black ink line that is difficult to correct or difficult to look away from. So here we have the actual sizing of the Color Theory stamp set, and ignore this bit here, but basically we have got the color wheel. So you can see it's a smaller kind of, it's a mini version of a pocket color wheel. So if you are on the go, or you like to travel and take your art supplies, if you can do that these days, traveling is not as it used to be, but if you can get away, then this is very easy to pack with you. It's super lightweight, super thin, and use it in your sketchbook. And all of these items we have already talked about, so you can see the realistic sizing of the full pan and half pan. And that is that. Now let's have a look at the actual work that I have been doing with these stamp sets. Ask me or tell me in the comments below if there's anything particular you want to know or a particular tutorial you want me to film. I would be very happy to show you how I create these illustrations. So here we have a face that basically I stamped everything except for the eyes and the lips, so that way I can still use the body stamp set but create my own face basically. So then I can show you the actual face stamps as well. So here we have the body and the face, everything done with this stamp set. And you can put them into these little kind of swimsuits if you wanted to just play around with postures. This is where it's going to be visible the most. If you start dressing them up, of course the body parts get a little bit lost. So it depends what you want. Equally, I love putting dresses on and things like that, but I do love playing with just building the postures and things like that as well. So here I have now played around with the movement with her arms and changing the body a little bit. Now here I wanted to show you that if you actually thought the body is way too small and you wanted to elongate it, you can do that. So here's the same thing basically, but you can see that if I draw a line, let's just draw a line here, say this is the head, and then here is where the feet end. So it's a few centimeters, couple of centimeters longer, this body. And you could make it even longer, because if you're actually going to draw a skirt, then it doesn't really matter how long the thigh is. So you don't even need to stamp that. What you could do is you could stamp her body, say with these parts, so if it's a front facing body shape, and then from here you just draw the skirt however long you want it, and then use the calf parts, so the bottom parts of the leg, and just kind of stamp it at the bottom of the skirt, and that way you can create the body to be as long as you want if you wanted to work in a more sort of realistic length of the body, even though it's probably going to be hard to achieve still because the head is quite big here. But you can definitely play with the sizing of the body and create cute little dolls like that, or slightly taller ones if you had a bigger journal. So that's that. And you can see here, this was just a draft that I was working quite quickly, and you can see all the lines and things like that. But once you start working with it and understanding the steps, which I can create a tutorial for you to see how you can actually create a more finished and more nicer looking illustration as opposed to something like this, I can happily film that tutorial for you. So if I just bring it up closer, you can see that here you can see all the sort of stamped lines which I have drawn out before drawing the dress. But if you know what you're doing, you should just leave the lining out part right to the end and just use the very light ink to stamp out the shape of the arms and everything. Dress her, and then once you have finished, then add the lines, and then the coloring comes in. So there's just a sequence of things how you should be doing to create a more finished look. So the other thing is eyebrows are not in the stamp set, and I kind of like it without the eyebrows. I feel that it looks more of a kind of innocent doll-like illustration, but you can draw your own eyebrows. And of course, if you do have the FOTD stamp set, then you could, you know, easily use the eyebrows from that stamp set as well. Okay, so last thing I'm going to show you from the moving doll stamp set is this. So here I just wanted to show you how I use both stamp sets in creating an illustration. So I start off by picking 3 colors and making it really easy for myself, nice and limited color palette, you know. So it could be something more traditional like the yellow, red, blue, to create the secondary orange, purple and green. Or you can totally ignore that and do your own thing and just pick 3 colors, whichever colors they are. You need to keep in mind the color theory, so you do need to study that a little bit, knowing that some colors can create muddy mixes, and if you like those colors, that's absolutely fine, you can still do that. If you want to avoid those colors, you just need to study it a little bit just to understand what mixes create warm and cool and you know, muddy and bright and vibrant colors, etc. So in this case, I was thinking about a Caucasian skin tone. I'd say quite a tanned, so it's not a pale Caucasian skin tone. In fact, you can still use this color palette for even darker color skin colors, and then on top, just to finish with darker colored pencils, you could create an overall darker skin tone. However, if you wanted to start with darker base with a watercolor, you could then of course go with one of the darker mixes.